Hello, my name is Don Guilford. My wife Diane and I operate Guilford Hereford Ranch. We've been farming, I guess, since 1974. We started out with our parents, and in 1986 we decided to go on our own, and we established Guilford Hereford Ranch. Today we run about 250 purebred Hereford cows and 60 purebred Black Angus cows. We operate on about 1,120 acres, about 1,200 I guess if we include the 80 acres of crown land. We buy most of our hay, all of our grain and straw. All our land is pastured, and we divide them up into most of our pastures are divided up into 15 to 20 acre paddocks, which we rotate on anywhere from 3 days, minimum of 3 days, usually up to 7, 8, 10 days, depending on the time of year and the amount of rainfall and growth. Mostly it depends on the amount of growth. Shelter belts, I guess, have been something that we winter out on the land. We have done for not throughout our farming career, but certainly in the early to mid 80s we started wintering out on the land. And initially we started by taking the bales out from the yard and rolling them out, and then we moved on to where now we bale graze, and we set the bales out in July when they're made, July or August, and so the bales are there we only handle the bales once. Some of our land, well, I guess I'll start with the home yard here. The home yard had some very well established evergreens on it when we moved here in 1986, and we came from a yard where my grandfather planted lots of trees and lots of maples, mostly maples and some ash. And so I grew up in a yard that was very much encompassed by shelter belts, and grew to appreciate especially in the wintertime, the shelter. I didn't exactly appreciate it when we used to put up square bales and the yard had not a breath of air in it in the middle of a summertime, but for the most part we definitely appreciated having the trees around the yard. And so when we moved here, there was a small grove of evergreens. And we're situated in the bottom of the Pembina Valley, which is nice to start with because we still have wind, but we have less wind than we'd experience up out of the valley. Anyway, we started here by planting, I don't know what it would be, probably 300 or 400 yards of trees around the north and the west side of the yard. We did 5 rows on the north and 4 rows on the west. And then the next shelter belt project we took on was 5 miles from home on a quarter section, and we split that one in half. That one actually has been probably, if there's been a disappointment, that's probably it. We used plastic mulch, and we had it worked up pretty good before we started and put the plastic mulch down. And I guess the disappointing part about that is we put in green ash, and I guess green ash are very long lived, but they're very long growing too. And so despite the fact that those trees have probably been in there 20-some years, we have very little. I wish we'd grown evergreens, because we would have had way more shelter from the wind than we are getting out of our green ash. Actually, what we've done over the last few years, when where we've planted new trees, we've put in mostly evergreens. And so if we have any left over, we would put the extras into that row, and so hopefully down the road we'll have some green ash with some evergreens, and actually we just plant them with a spade, and we've had pretty good success with the survival rate on them. It's been way better than I thought it would have been. In 1999 we bought another half section, and it had 2 established rows of trees on it, green ash and some elm, Carigana. The last project we've had, I guess, in terms of shelter belts is, I guess, having lived here in the valley and having the benefit of the evergreens that were here, existed here before we came. We just feel that the evergreens, that when we planned to do another shelter belt, we felt evergreens were we were looking for winter shelter protection for cattle, and it's a very long-term project. You know, who knows whether I'll ever benefit from it, but we just thought the evergreens were the best fit in terms of planting a shelter belt that would at some time benefit the cattle in the wintertime. So we planted them about between 6 and 8 feet apart, and we did it on a north-south fence line, two north-south fence lines for about half a mile. And that was about 5 or 6 years ago, and they're up now, you know, 2 or 3 feet high. Some of them. We've had to it's on very light sandy land. So it's, you know, we had some doubting Thomases that say that felt that on the land that we were planting these evergreens on, you know, their survival rates would probably be very questionable. And we have no doubt the first year we planted them was extremely dry, and we probably lost 25% of them. So we've gone back and replanted them with you know, put more evergreens into it. The one mistake we made is we calved alongside these evergreens and the plastic mulch we put down. Of course, the cows like to go in under the fence, and they punched holes in the plastic mulch. One thing we've done up there that is on really light land, and we've targeted our poorest land for bale grazing and for winter grazing. We run those 200 cows up on that half section, and for the most part in the wintertime they're restricted to one particular paddock. We have well water there for them to drink, and bale grazing for us has been tremendous. I think tremendous. It's probably kept us in business over the last 7 or 8 years. We don't spread in those 200 cows. We don't spread any manure for them, and that alone we think is somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,000–8,000 a year saving on 200 cows. Plus, we don't have to put up any straw, and those cows normally in a conventional wintering situation would need probably 2 bales per cow or 400 bales for the winter, which would cost us another, at $10 a bale, would cost us another $4,000. So we feel that the bale grazing, just in savings, operational costs and savings, has saved us about at least $10,000 to $12,000 a year every year. And we haven't calculated. We've been doing soil testing with our local ag rep for the last 4 years, I believe it is, and we've had just tremendous increase in nutrients on the land. We started out at 28 pounds of nitrogen per acre on some of that land, and it's peaked. On average, we're probably up over 400 pounds per acre now after bale grazing, and it's peaked. There's places where it's peaked at 956 pounds nitrogen per acre.
And that's your pasture in the summer?
Yes, and this is land that we would pasture through the summer. So we've just started, we've done 4 years, I think, of soil testing, and we've just started doing clippings now to get an idea of what the increase to get a more accurate idea of what the increase in production has been. And I say we've easily done 5, and Rajan says it's closer to 10 times the production off that same land. So it's, you know, I think bale grazing, when we started rotational grazing in the early 80s, that I listened to people like Ellen Savory and people that had done, or that were promoting rotational grazing, and they were talking about doubling stocking rates, and on our land where we have just rotational grazed, I think we have doubled our stocking rates there. But I think now with bale grazing, it just speeds up when you're importing all those nutrients onto your land, and you can heal land in a matter of no time. I mean, actually, it takes one winter, and you can take land that's virtually out of production and get it to where it'll be very productive land again. Probably as good or better as it ever was. So thank you, and I guess we do the odd tour through the summer if somebody's interested, or the winter. In fact, I have a guy that wants to come, and a friend of mine from Souris area wants to come and look at our bale grazing in the winter time. So thank you.